What is going on, you beautiful people of the world? Today is a dark day indeed for me. It's unfortunate. The EVO registration numbers for 2019 were released, and can I say this is possibly the worst day in the history of fighting games? Can I get an F in the chat? From my boy Unist getting passed up at the finish line. They were celebrating early. They weren't looking around. I'm sure you've all seen those GIFs online of somebody starting to pop off thinking that they just won, and then somebody just sprints right past them as they're celebrating and takes the W. Unist wound up having a grand total of 1,156 entrants, which is very respectable, but it has been leading Dragon Ball FighterZ the entire time. The entire race for registrants has been led by Unist. I mean, not led, but you get the gist. And Dragon Ball FighterZ passed it up, ended up with 1,191, a grand total of 45 more entrants. Same exact thing happened to Tekken 7. I would have to go back and look, and I'm far too lazy for that, and it just doesn't matter overall. But I'm almost certain that Tekken 7 has been number 2 in entrants the entire time. So basically, if you're not aware of what I'm talking about, Mr. Wizard has been posting periodically. It's like every 2 or 3 weeks. He posts an update on where the registration numbers are. He doesn't actually post any of the actual numbers, but he just posts like, here's the leaderboard basically of games per entrant, and the entire time it's basically been Smash, then Tekken, then Street Fighter, and then from there it's been kind of little clustered. It's differed just depending on time. But yeah, Street Fighter managed to pass up Tekken 7 at the last minute too. But with 44 more entrants, Street Fighter 5 has 1929 and Tekken 7 has 1885. Regardless, let's get into these actual numbers. Can I say super excited for Tekken? Because once again, I mentioned this last year when I looked at it before, there has been a few moments of growth for games per year. Like when a game returns, the vast majority of the time, like 99% of the time, the game loses entrants. It doesn't maintain the same amount of numbers year over year. But Tekken 7 is a rare exception. There was one other game, and one of you guys pointed it out to me, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. But Tekken 7 has, once again, for every single year since its inception, it kind of doesn't count its first year it was there, because its first year at EVO, it wasn't even out on consoles yet. Your only possible way to play it was going to a special event thrown by Namco Bandai, where you could actually play the game on an arcade cabinet, or if you went to Asia and played in the arcades there. Otherwise, the game was inaccessible, so it doesn't really count that it had growth from the year that it wasn't even out yet on consoles to the year that it was. Of course, it's going to get growth then. But ever since then, it has just been steadily getting bigger and bigger. It gained 300 entrants this year. Let me check. I'm going to link you to the tweet and to this page that I'm using. I'm so happy, because I've just been Googling like EVO X year registration numbers, and thankfully I found a page that actually lists them, not forever, just from, oh, I see, I guess there weren't any official numbers pre-2012, because down at the very bottom, so it shows you all the registration numbers from 2012 to the present. It hasn't included 2019 yet, but when it shows 2011, it just says mostly approximations, so I guess he never gave official numbers prior to that. I don't know. Regardless, doesn't matter. In 2018, what was I going to talk about? Oh, Tekken 7 had 1,538 entrants. And in 2017 had 1,278. And then in 2016, this was the year that it wasn't even out on consoles yet, it only had 549. And so, since it came out on consoles, it's steadily grown by around 300 entrants per year, which is a lot. That's a significant amount. That's almost more people than registered for Injustice last year, just to put that into perspective. Regardless, that's really cool, and that means if we continue this trend of growth in a linear pathway, which is obviously going to happen, there's no way that this is going to get cut off at some point in time by some other factors. In around 11 years, Tekken 7 will break the record of registration set by Street Fighter 5 in its first year. It'll surpass that. So I'll see y'all in 11 years. Can't wait. Anyway, other numbers. I'm going to talk about Unist, because obviously Unist is my favorite game that's here this year. 1156, really respectable. I am slightly sad. I thought when I saw that there was a chance that was the most amount of entrants for an anime fighting game. I shouldn't say an anime fighting game, because, like, let's be real. I mean, obviously Dragon Ball FighterZ falls into that category, but so does Marvel vs. Capcom. But for, like, the lower, non-licensed, this game is never going to be a mainstream popularity as much as it deserves it. As good as the game is, it's just a simple fact that it's never going to have the same mass market appeal as licensed products like Dragon Ball FighterZ or like storied franchises like Mortal Kombat. It's just not going to reach those levels. I wish it could. I sure as hell think it deserves it. But just from an actual realistic perspective, it's never going to reach that height of popularity. I thought it was the most amount of entrants that an anime fighting game has received at EVO. And unfortunately, last year, BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle had 1,178, 22 more entrants. All that I needed was 23 more people to sign up for this damn game. And I could have shit-talked BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, but now I don't get to. Makes me so sad. But still, 1,156 for a game that's 2 years old. The game has been out since July of 2017 in Japan. And so for the people like myself who imported it, knowing how amazing the game was going to be, we've been playing it for 2 years. It's a 2-year-old game, and it came out about half a year later worldwide. For it to still receive 1,156 entrants, that's incredibly good. I'm so happy that it's gotten this amount of attention, and I hope that this shows Mr. Wizard that this is a franchise that he should look to in the future. Because, like, I can't imagine, like, if this goes well, if this has a tournament that was as hype as last year's side tournament at EVO, which it was extremely hype, it could draw additional eyes to the game, could put more additional focus on the game, and people start looking into it. And then if they announce, because there's been a trademark leaked from Taiwan for the whatever the hell the follow-up is called. It's an absolutely ridiculous title. Please relax, Japan, on your titling of games. It's getting ridiculous. They're simplifying their fighting games, but they're complicating their titles. Switch that around. Well, don't complicate fighting games, but you get what I mean. Like, please relax with your ridiculous game titles. Now I lost my train of thought. Going, why did I even talk about that? It was a waste of time. If they have a hype announcement on top of that, now you'll potentially have a fresh game going into EVO 2020. That'd be pretty damn cool. If it manages to make it there as well, that would be extremely hype. So anyway, because I do want to talk about my hopes and kind of like also my thoughts of what's going to be announced, but before I get into that, let's just go over the rest of the numbers. BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, only 640 entrants, lowest at the tournament. Not surprising, given my own thoughts in the game. Like, I don't think. Same thing with Dragon Ball FighterZ. It only received 1,191. That's less than half of, just so to put it into perspective, Dragon Ball FighterZ last year had 2,575 entrants, and BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle had 1,178. I did already mention that one. So Dragon Ball FighterZ got less than half of the entrants that it had last year. BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle a little bit more than half. But it doesn't surprise me at all that both of those games fell off as hard as they did, because both of them took that route of simplifying the game, of trying to make it more accessible to newcomers, and due to that, sacrifice depth. And so if you don't have a game that's incredibly deep, that causes people to believe that, like, I can keep getting better and this game can continue getting better as I get better at it, basically for an extended period of time, of course people are going to drop the game, because it's just not interesting after a certain period of time. And so that's more or less, it makes perfect sense that these games would fall off pretty hard. Soul Calibur 6 is the real disappointment here. Like, out of all the games, that's a huge disappointment. It only received 742 entrants. As far as I'm aware, like, I don't even have to double check. I'm just going to, but I don't have to double check at all. As far as I am aware, never mind, I did have to check. Soul Calibur 5 was at EVO in 2012. Okay. See, I was thinking that, and it only received 416 entrants back then. Oof. I was thinking that Soul Calibur has not been a mainline game at EVO since 2. So, good to know that I was wrong on that. But still, like, it really sucks. It really hurts to see that it came back with a whimper, and that's probably the death knell of Soul Calibur. I have to imagine. Because it was already, like, it hasn't received any support, really, from, for a long period of time, and then for it to come out and basically just be largely ignored in the sense that, like, nobody really cares about it. It's there. Like, it wasn't bad, it wasn't good, it just exists. Yeah, that's a problem. And the other problem is that it is a franchise published by Namco Bandai. So, like, they're already basically competing with themselves. It's just between themselves and Soul Calibur and Tekken 7. Dead or Alive, I feel, is kind of a non-issue at this point. And so Tekken 7 is far and away, I feel, almost inarguably better than Soul Calibur 6. And so you're going to have a ton of people that were Tekken 7 fans are like, oh, this is from the same people that made Tekken 7. Let's go check this out. And then they're like, okay, I prefer Tekken 7. I'm just going to go play that game instead now. So you kind of just shot yourself in the foot by making a fighting game as damn good as Tekken 7 is, because you just guaranteed that any other fighting game has to measure up, or they're just going to go back to the other fighting game. So yeah, it does suck for Soul Calibur. I wish it did better than that. I wish that it had been better than it actually was. But unfortunately, the numbers show, like, it's floundering, and it's unlikely that we're going to see that game again for a very long time, which does suck. Mortal Kombat 11 is a bit surprising to me, because I kind of thought Mortal Kombat 11 was more or less in the same boat as Soul Calibur, in the sense that, like, people weren't feeling it like they had the previous iterations of the game, but it got 1,567 entrants. That is, to my knowledge, let me again double check, the most amount of entrants a Mortal Kombat game has had. Where's the first year Mortal Kombat 10 was there? Here we go. 1,162, the very first year Mortal Kombat 10 was at EVO. And it's never surpassed. It's never gotten bigger than that. I'm not sure if... No, Mortal Kombat 9 in 2011, the approximation is 500 plus. So yeah, like, that's by a wide margin, that's the most amount of entrants a Mortal Kombat game has had. So that's good for Mortal Kombat. Good for them. Especially after how Injustice 2 performed last year. Was Injustice 2 at? Yeah, it was 883 at 2017. So that never really popped off, which kind of surprises me. Well, I shouldn't say it doesn't surprise me at all. Injustice has always been absolutely garbage balance-wise and fairly boring to watch. So it actually doesn't surprise me. But that's a big jump for Mortal Kombat, so good for them. But the real tale, Samurai Showdown, at 1,719, damn near caught up to Tekken. That's really fucking cool. Amazing for SNK. That is the most amount of entrants an SNK game has received at EVO, period. Which is really impressive for it. The closest that it's gotten was King of Fighters 13 in 2012, because it had a $15,000 prize pool. And that had 1,072 entrants. So again, by a significant margin, to be fair, I mean, you can't really compare the games themselves. They're very different games. But they're both made by SNK. So I hope this gives them confidence moving forward, because King of Fighters 14 was very flawed, especially during release. They've improved it since then, but it was an incredibly flawed release. And I think you could tell that it kind of hit them a little hard. In terms of how it was received from the public perception, how, like, there were a lot of people that truly enjoyed the game, but there was a lot of criticism levied toward it. Some deserved, some not so much, but I hope they look at this and it gives them some additional confidence to continue moving forward, because King of Fighters 13 is one of my favorite fighting games of all time. King of Fighters 14, not so much. That wasn't really my jam, but hopefully this kind of gives them the drive to make King of Fighters 15 an absolutely magical experience and one of the best fighting games to ever come out. That's my hopes from seeing these numbers. And, like, I would never have thought it would be that popular, because Samurai Showdown is so different. And honestly, I feel like if we want to see Samurai Showdown be successful in the future, it's gonna depend on the grand finals of this game. It really is. Because in my head, I could absolutely see, like, a Tam mirror match or some bullshit where both players are just trying to outlame each other, and it winds up being the most boring experience in the world. and I will just want to throw myself off a bridge watching it. And that would hurt the game to an incredible degree if that's the kind of game that people tune into to see, like, okay, this game has a lot of entrants, this game has a lot of attention on it right now, let me go check it out, see what's going on, and then that's what they see? Like, oh, this is what this fighting game is about? Fuck off. I don't care about this game already. That would suck. It would make me so sad. So, here's hoping that doesn't happen. So yeah, anyway, moving on. Street Fighter V, huge drop-off. 600 people less than it had last year, I believe. It had 2575 last year. Do I remember that correctly? No. That was Dragon Ball FighterZ. 2484 last year. So that's still like 555 technically. Not technically, that's literally the math. 555 less entrants this year. That's a huge drop-off, which doesn't really surprise me. I don't really have anything to say about it. Like, it's Street Fighter V is Street Fighter V. You know how you feel about it at this point. It's going to stay at EVO forever. Like, there's going to be a Street Fighter game every single year. It's just going to happen. Smash Ultimate. Holy shit. 3,492 entrants? You go. Like, that's really impressive. Now, what I have a question about, because I didn't really pay attention to it, because I just didn't care. My cards are not a part of this deck. I am not a part of this fight. I could not care less. But were people angry, just in general, that Melee was not there? Or were people angry that, like, Ultimate doesn't deserve to be there, Melee should be there instead? I'm pretty sure it's the former. But if it's the latter, this is a slap in the face to them, which is fantastic. I mean, in general, the people that are bitching, like, whenever your game is not there, you have to understand your game doesn't, like, deserve to be there. There is nothing that says, like, my game should be there. This game would receive more. You should also check this out. I'll link Mr. Wizard's tweet so you can actually see all of the replies. There are so many people in the replies going, Melee would have done better than these games. Like, the very first reply is from, I believe, a Melee player. His name is Zero. Who's put, Melee could have had top 5, just saying. Yes, we get it. You're just saying that you are a petty little bitch that can't stand to see anybody but yourself having the limelight. You're arrogant. You need to be a part of the spotlight. We get it. We also don't care. Fuck off. Let other games have their time. Like, your game has been at EVO, shit, how many years? I mean, it's been at EVO since... Oh, has it only been since 2016? No. Oh, it's just put as Melee. Okay, there we go. Never mind. I was just going to say, like, that's wrong. Since 2013, your game has been featured at EVO. For 5 straight years, your game was at EVO. You have your entire own tournament circuit for your game. Like, how much of an asshole do you have to be to not be like, hey, yo, EVO, thanks for having our game, for featuring our game for 5 years. Thanks for giving us a spotlight. Thanks for making us more popular than we've ever been before and allowing us to support these players for 5 years and continue to grow and build our community. Thank you for doing that. No, instead, you hop on Twitter and you go, oh man, look at these other pathetic games with their non-1,000 number entrants. Fuck them, Melee would have done better. You're a bitch. Plain and simple. You are the kind of human being that I hope I never have to meet in my life, because honestly, you just drag everybody down. You make everything around you worse. You are the kind of person that goes to... See, I had this, right? When I was at college, I got together with a few groups of people doing various things. One of them was a movie night. And there was this dude that was at the movie night one time where, for shits and giggles, I suggested we should watch Magic Mike. We were with a group of girls. That's the kind of movie that you watch to get a group of girls, you know, happy. Just generally excited for future prospects in the evening. And this dude, the entire fucking time, would not shut up about how gay the movie was, about how gay I was. for suggesting the movie, about how bad the movie was and how much he didn't want to be there. Motherfucker, we get it. You don't like it. Just shut the fuck up and let other people enjoy themselves. That's what these dudes are. Like, just chill out. You have your own tournaments. Support those tournaments. Be happy you have those tournaments. And allow other people to have the limelight for at least a small degree of time. You don't need to take away from something. Like, just relax and quit being such a child that needs all the attention on them. You should be better than that, but you're not. It is just absolutely pathetic. Moving forward, good for Smash Ultimate. That is the second most entrants a fighting game has ever received. If everybody actually shows up for that, it might actually be the most amount of entrants that actually showed up. I used actually way too often throughout that. That might be the most amount of people that show up for a tournament if everybody shows up, because that was the story of Street Fighter V when it got the 5,000 plus entrants, was that like entire pools were basically deserted because so many people just didn't show up for one reason or another. I don't know why. But that would be interesting if anybody actually had those figures, like, here's the amount of people that got DQ'd from the tournament because they didn't show up, so here's the amount of people that actually played in the tournament. That'd be interesting to me, but I doubt anybody actually has those figures. I'm using actually again. Now I'm hyper aware of it, and I'm going to be pissed at myself every single time I use the word. So, now that I've talked about all the numbers, let's move forward and let's talk about all of my hopes and dreams, but first, my nightmare for what could be occurring. If you do not remember, was it last year? Or was it the year before that? I think it was last year. Because Guilty Gear Xrd was there last year. Okay. And so not the producer, somebody is associated with Arc System Works, I can't remember who exactly they were, said like, Daisuke, is hard at work at something Guilty Gear related, but there's nothing that we have prepared to be announced. And it has been radio silence since then. We know nothing about what's happening with Guilty Gear. We have no idea what Arc System Works' plans are for Guilty Gear. And so my greatest fear right now is like, they're gonna come out and be like, we've been hard at work at Guilty Gear making these characters available in the BlazBlue engine so that we can add this group of DLC characters to the next season of BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle. I would, like, you have no idea. All of that I just talked about in regard to the Melee players being children, I would put them to shame, to absolute shame, with the baby crocodile tears that I would be crying at that time. I would be the most hypocritical motherfucker in the world. Like, how dare you continue supporting Cross Tag Battle? Guilty Gear deserves better than this. That would be me. 100% that would be me. So that's my fear. Like, it's such like an outlier. Like, there's no way that's going to happen. But still, there is a part of me that's like, I don't trust Arc System Works. What are they gonna do to Guilty Gear? There's so many other things they could do too that would be terrible. Like, they had that Musou Guilty Gear game, Overture. Wasn't terrible game. I tried it. It was terrible. They could do that. They could just rebalance Guilty Gear Xrd again, buff Johnny again. That would be the worst. Just there's so many thoughts swirling around in my head, and it's so black and it's so dark and it's just all so negative of like, what are they gonna do to fuck this up? They fucked everything up ever since basically ever since they released Jubei as DLC. It's been a downhill slide from Arc System Works since then. So like, what are they gonna do now to fuck up Guilty Gear? That's my thought process. It's a bad look, but one that I don't think is entirely undeserved, because they made some very questionable decisions in the last balance patch for Revelator 2.0. They made questionable decisions before that in regard to their balancing, and just time and time again, Arc System Works has just made me sad. And so I'm prepping for how sad they're going to make me in regard to future Guilty Gear news. But I would be very surprised to find out that they don't have anything Guilty Gear related ready to announce at EVO. Like, it's been so long since we've heard anything. But at the same time, they also have their own tournament series. When does that end? Like, I have not paid any attention whatsoever to their own tournament series. I almost forgot until it just snapped back into my head right now that it even existed. And so, like, they might just save any announcements for that because it's their own tournament, right? Like, we want to keep all the eyes on our own tournament. We don't want to give these other tournaments even more exposure. So even though it would be absolutely stupid of them, that could be a potential thought process. But yeah, I would not be surprised if they use Cross Tag Battle's time to announce something for a different franchise that they're working on, rather than something further for Cross Tag Battle. I don't know if they still have more plans for that game, for Cross Tag Battle, if they have more DLC characters incoming. I think it's been speculated that there's going to be another wave of DLC, but honestly, at this point, I would be surprised. I don't think they are drawing in any new people at this point, like they're getting new sales. And so I guess it would largely depend on how many people bought into the most recent Arcana Heart DLC, and seeing those numbers. And, you know, like if a significant amount of people bought into those, then they could potentially consider another wave of DLC. But I think that Cross Tag Battle is probably done and over with. It's not going to continue like growing or receive, or like, you know, play. At this point, you're at the point where people are falling off. Nope, there's not more people joining. And so probably time to move on. But we'll see. I don't know. I would be surprised if there's anything Cross Tag Battle related announced. Same thing with Dragon Ball FighterZ. They've had 2 seasons of DLC. I want to say 3 maybe. I don't know. They've had a lot. I would be, again, same exact thing. Like, I mean, you just look at the numbers for the amount of entrants. Like the tournament community is kind of lukewarm in regard to both of those games. The time has kind of passed for that hype. And then, yeah. I would be surprised to see announcements for any of those games. Unist, obviously, I'm sure as hell hoping for some sort of trailer, for some sort of information for the new version that's been leaked for ages now, but we still haven't actually heard any legitimate news from French Bread or Arc System Works or anybody. So I would be legitimately surprised if nothing Unist related is announced. SNK, I would absolutely love to see King of Fighters 15 teased. That would be sick. It would be kind of out of place, though, because Samurai Showdown is so new. And so to just be like, hey, here's our game that just received the most amount of entrants an SNK game has received ever at this tournament. Thank you so much. Actually, you can't even just say at this tournament. This is the most amount of tournament entrants an SNK game has ever received. Thank you so much for your support. We love you. And instead of doing that, they just be like, hey, thanks for supporting this game, but fuck all that noise. Here's King of Fighters. It would be a bit out of place the more I think about it. So as much as I would like it, as much as I want to have an amazing experience with King of Fighters again, it would be out of place. They should try to continue riding the success of Samurai Showdown. Absolutely. And there is DLC planned for the game. So they may just be looking to announce that. I don't know. Tekken would be surprising. See, this is kind of the same case with Tekken and Street Fighter. I feel like both of them are long enough in their lifespans that they're done. What we have now is what we're going to continue to have for the foreseeable future until the new consoles come out. That's what I'm looking at. Because the first time I was thinking about this, I was thinking like we might see an announcement for a new for a new Tekken or for a new Street Fighter. But Street Fighter's weird because they've had their producers talking just time and time and time again. We're looking to make Street Fighter V a service. We want to support this game for years to come. Where does that actually cut off? Because, like, I don't think anybody new was buying into Street Fighter V anymore. The game, like, it's been out long enough where you know which side of the battle you lie on. And you're not going to just suddenly jump into the game this many years into its lifespan. So, do they continue doing their whole Street Fighter V as a service game plan? Or do they cut out and start making Street Fighter 6 for new consoles? That's what I'm looking at. I'm thinking that they're going to be looking to make new stuff for their new consoles. But at the same time, like Tekken, for instance, would they be looking to make a Tekken Tag Tournament 3? Or alternatively, are we finally going to see something in regard to Tekken Cross Street Fighter? Because it feels like a lot of their DLC characters were kind of like tests to see how well they can adapt characters from other media into their games, which I think, and arguably, they succeeded pretty damn well. And so, because obviously Akuma is a Street Fighter character, so you have that going on. But then you have Geese from King of Fighters, Noctis from Final Fantasy, the dude that I can't remember his name because I never actually seen The Walking Dead, but the dude from The Walking Dead. They've practiced a lot. And so I think that may be something that hints toward the potential. But at the same time, it really does feel like Harada is just using it as a joke. As like, oh yeah, of course Tekken Cross Street Fighter is still in development after all these years of radio silence and you hearing nothing. Absolutely, 100%. You can look forward to it sometime soon. Alright, see you later. Like, it doesn't feel genuine at this point. So, it would be very surprising if that was the case. But I feel like if you want to look toward making a sequel, a mainline sequel for either of those games, you're going to want to wait until the new generation of consoles comes. Because they're not far away. Isn't the Xbox announced to be released like fall of next year? So it feels like those are close enough that you would want to develop for those for the new generation of consoles rather than continuing to develop for the PS4 or the Xbox One. And so I don't think we're going to see much in the way of news of either of those series either because of that. Smash, I have no idea. I don't pay attention to Smash. I don't even know if they're still releasing more DLC characters. I think Joker was the last one, right? I have no idea if they're going to continue supporting the game with more DLC, but it's definitely too new for them to look toward announcing a sequel or anything like that for sure. There's no way in hell that's going to happen. So, yeah, I have no idea if they're even going to have anything for Smash to announce. But yeah, those are my hopes and my dreams. Please give me a new mainline Guilty Gear game that has Testament in it so I can actually use the character with a scythe and piss people off. Because he's one of the few characters that can actually effectively zone in Guilty Gear. And that is something that I feel is fairly lacking overall in the game. So it would be interesting. But, I don't know. I do not expect anything, but I have great hopes. I don't expect for anything good to be announced, but I'm prepared to be excited as hell for what could be announced. That's basically the summarization of my thoughts. So, rambled on for long enough. Thank you all for listening. I hope you all have a great day. And I still haven't heard whether or not I'm going to commentate. God damn it!